I am super excited to have on the show today a person that I can't say randomly met. It kind of was random. It wasn't there for my opportunity. It was there for my husband's opportunity. But DJ Higgins, DJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. As I was saying before we got on, I really loved meeting you and Derek. And, apart from having an interesting story and great energy, I'm big on kindness, not to sound corny, but, especially in New York City, when you meet really kind people like Rodney as well, that I don't want to say is a rarity, but it is exciting, and now it's almost like it's a trivial thing to say, oh, that was a kind person. But you guys right off the bat were really warm and, super intelligent and all of this stuff, so it was cool to meet. And then I appreciate you inviting me on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in case you guys are listening and watching now, talking about, well, what are they talking about? And who's Rodney and all this other stuff. Right. So my husband, Derek, and I had went out to New York. I think it was in January. Was it January? Yeah. I went out to New York in January, and we were there because he was doing an interview on the podcast, and DJ was also doing an interview on the podcast. Rodney, what's Rodney's last name?
Arbona. Yeah, Arbona, yeah.
Yep. So he has a show, and he was interviewing both these gentlemen. And so that's where we got a chance to meet DJ. And it's nice to know that we came off as kind. You never know how you're perceived these days.
Well, no, that's one thing I'm sensitive to, even in terms of business. And as an entrepreneur, and we can unpack, my film company and how that has really put out 8 movies. You want to do everything yourself, but I met a filmmaker in grad school, and we had a friendship, and she's 30 years older than me, became one of my best friends, and we were really able to collaborate based on having certain commonalities, but also there was a friendship there and there's trust and whatnot. So when you're talking, that's why I wanted to mention it, the kindness factor, because if you're getting in the business with somebody and you don't trust them, greed is such a crazy thing. And I could say her name's Julie Robinson. She's, on my Instagram, and we do every project together, but we've never had an argument in 7 years over money. Never. And that's such a rarity because we're both in each other's corners, and there's a genuine love for each other and a genuine respect for each other. And I don't think you can run a business without that. And you don't hear a lot of entrepreneurs. In fact, I'm sure there's people that have laughed at me or called me naive using this word, especially in the Manhattan rat race. But you got to surround yourself. And I would say Rodney as well. His show is No Excuses. And he's got a very interesting story. On his website, he was, I guess, once homeless, and, he picked himself up by the bootstraps and, has become himself an entrepreneur. And, we're doing this podcast in a button shop, remember?
Right. With an interesting story all, in and of itself.
Right.
So tell me this, you do bring up a very interesting thing, which I do want to dig into a little bit later, around kindness and respect on this business journey, this entrepreneurial journey. But let's take it back a little bit. So 8 films you have done now, right? You're a filmmaker. What is your why for starting this film company and getting into this?
So, I was like trying to pick out a shirt that I felt. I have all these, I like t-shirts and whatnot. I'm not going to put a tie on, I hope that's not breaking protocol. But
dude, I have a jean jacket on, DJ.
I didn't know. I meant to ask you, if we're supposed to keep it, if there's like a dress code, and, like I said, and I have a ton of respect for you and what you're doing. And I was excited we could pull it off because, as I mentioned, I had a really, really crazy last 3 months moving out of the city. So I saw this shirt. It's actually from a donut shop. If you see their logo, it's
I didn't see that.
And I have all these like nerdy filmmaking t-shirts and, shots of Scorsese. I have a great Spike Lee t-shirt. Spike Lee really influenced a lot of the ways, I have a film on Amazon called Meet Mario, because my partner is African-American. My mom's side's from Italy. I speak Italian. And we came together and we try to tell stories that ask questions that we feel will benefit the world, that will benefit the youth. And another part of my identity is I'm an educator. She works in mental health, and then we run this company together. The why would be, I love to learn. I finished my doctorate in August. I stayed in school until 33. The last 2 years were really hard, balancing a full-time job, running a company, going to school. But filmmaking allows me to reach people in a different way and keep the conversation going. My films, I don't think really push for answers. They ask questions, and then a group of people, especially at these film festivals, maybe will say, let's get a drink. Well, what were you trying to say here and what were you trying to say there? And I'm like, I wasn't really trying to say anything. I was trying to ask questions to bring a discussion together. And going back to the shirt, I really don't think you can run a company. In fact, I don't know anybody that I view as truly successful that doesn't enjoy the process. These people that are like, I want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to run a business so that I can make a ton of money and have financial freedom. That's cool. But what we're seeing right now in COVID, which is so crazy, is, I'm a big food guy. So actually one of the things that
a food gal.
Yeah, right. Right. I love to try different foods, sushi. I cook a lot. So my cousin was just visiting. He was born in Italy, and we had a great time making a lot of homemade sauces, carbonara. We did a lot of things from scratch. But the idea in terms of, at one point I wanted to open up a business. Now with COVID, a restaurant, excuse me. And with COVID right now, things are shutting down. The restaurant business is going through a really, really traumatic time. And if you don't love what you're doing pretty much 7 days out of the week, I don't know how you survive life, these type of events. And I could tell you, behind some of the awards that we've won, there's also a lot of drama, and there's a lot of naysayers, and there's a lot of behind the scene work, and I owe everything that our company has done really to Julie Robinson, being the great partner that she is. Without her, I wouldn't have been able to. It's not a pat on the back. It's not a self-righteous thing. It's not a I'm not trying to say, let me give 50% credit because she's my partner. None of that. Julie has been by my side during a lawsuit.
Jeez.
During everything. And that's why I wanted to start with, your energy and Derek's energy is just really warm, kind people. I said, oh, this is cool. And you're like, I have a podcast. I'm like, look, I'd love to go on, because especially when you're in New York, you're trying to deal with a sixth sense. Is this person genuine or not? So.
Right.
So again, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. So now tell me, you talked about, there's drama and naysayers along the way.
Yep.
How do you deal with that? Especially when you're operating in something that you are passionate about and that has meaning, right? Your companies, you guys aren't just doing this for fun. You talked about the, not giving people the answers and having them walk away with questions and deeper dialogue. How do you deal with any drama and naysayers as you're building?
Well, I think when you're building a company, so we built this company called Meet Mario LLC. We put all of our movies out through it. We named it after our first movie, which is called Meet Mario. It's on Amazon. It's a film about a Black Italian guy. His mother is from Naples. The father is an African American soldier. At a certain point, the mother passes, and he comes to the U.S. and he deals with racism and whatnot, but as an Italian, African American, identity crisis. And we told this story 6 years ago. Just, I came to Julie with the script. She kind of ripped it apart and said, hey, look, like, maybe we can enhance, and I mean that in a good way. Maybe we could, say this or that. And then I said, great, let's work on it together to get the best possible product. But making a movie is super complex because you can't make a movie without money. So and considerably, you have to go through a union. You have to pay the actors. Maybe an actor doesn't show up. I mean, I've been lucky, very lucky to work with a lot of really, really great actors who've also become friends after, but I've also had disagreements. And the naysayers, you have to block out and you have to believe wholeheartedly in what it is that your vision represents. Because I tell myself every time, if everyone loved my idea, they would have already done it. So of course they're not going to agree with it. Like, think about that guy that created the sticky notes that you put on, you know, those yellow sticky notes.
Right.
He's like a gazillionaire. So I'm sure when he went to a company and said, hey, look, you know, I'm going to come up with this piece of paper and you're going to stick it on the wall, people laughed at him, because if someone else had that idea, they would have already done it. So I actually, when someone doesn't see eye to eye with me, especially on the conceptual, you know, process in creating a story, I'm excited about that because that means that we're on to something that's never been done. If someone says, oh yeah, that makes sense, you're like, well, if it makes that much sense, then
So, you know, so that's a really interesting perspective. And I like where you're going with that, because too often it is the opposite. And I think here is where you get the meeting of, you know, the creativity or the super creative entrepreneurs and the let me just roll with what has already been done and follow the path and make money, right? Entrepreneurship type. Because they really are, they're different. Like what you just said is, hey, if you understand this, oh, so crystal clear and all this, something is not right. Like, wait a second, maybe I need to rethink this. And there's that opposite perspective of just do what's always already done, right? Just let them know it's like this thing that exists in the market today. So you hear like that piece of originality as a creative entrepreneur that you seek to bring to the world. I think that's what I'm hearing. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah. I didn't know. I mean, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. I mean, you have to, you know, it's such a complex thing that I went for a run this morning trying to prep for our call. You know, I'm a perfectionist and I come from a sporting background. So I'm like, if I do something, I want to do it right. I'm not sure that I articulated it well. You know, you seem like you said it better than I did. but I'm glad that we were able to get the point across in the sense of you want to be clear and concise, but adversity is part of being an entrepreneur. So, you know, like I'm really into sports and I love these 30 for 30s, you know, these documentaries on ESPN. And I just watched the documentary on Dennis Rodman. And Dennis Rodman basically was never a huge scorer. He was the first guys in the Hall of Fame, you know, to just focus on rebounds. And no one had ever done that before. And along the way, it's like, well, how are we going to put this guy on our team if that's his specialty? And he became a niche player in that sense. And, you know, my uncle, who's a businessman, my mother's brother, he's walked me through a lot of the process. I turned to him for a lot of advice. And his biggest constant saying is, and I'm reminded of this all the time, there's no shortcuts. So sometimes you say, well, you know, maybe I'll sell out a little bit here or there. And, you know, this guy wants to buy the story from me, but he doesn't really like where I'm going with the plot, or he wants, I'll give you an example. So we have a movie called Pasquales Magic Veal, which is, it was on Amazon, and I put it on YouTube recently for free. So whoever's listening, if you type in DJ Higgins, Pasquales Magic Veal, you can access it, and then you'll see a lot of the other stuff I've done on my page. But I remember we went to a pretty high profile executive looking for money. I was with Julie, and he said, look, the movie's cool. You got some big players in it. He said, I don't like the name Pasquales Magic Veal. He said, it's weird. He said, it's not gonna, if you put it in iTunes, no one's gonna click on that. And I looked at Julie, and Julie kind of gave me a smile, you know, a smile of support. And we walked out, and she said, we're not changing that. That's the whole point, that it's supposed to be a little quirky. You know, it's supposed to be a little strange. So, well, how could a piece of veal be magical? You know? and we didn't change it, you know? And again, I got to commend Julie 1,000 times over, because another partner might have said, wow, could have been insecure. Maybe we should listen to him. We really fought. And this guy's got a ton of experience, a lot of serious Hollywood connections. And the movie went on to win 20 awards, you know? And I always say to Julie, I said, you know, I can't thank you enough for that type of support, you know, because I wrote the script. And she said, no, I believe in the project.
So sticking to that vision, to the vision, what you saw, what you see.
Well, because I think part of being an entrepreneur is being not even part. I think, let's say they're synonymous. I think being an entrepreneur is being a visionary. And a visionary sees things that nobody else sees. So like, you know, as controversial as he is, Elon Musk sees things that the average minded individual from an entrepreneurial standpoint can't see. Like, he's like, look, I want to build an underground tunnel to solve the traffic problem in LA. And everyone's like, well, that's crazy. And he's like, I don't care.
I'm gonna make it happen. Actually.
Right.
Big visions. Yeah, you're right. There is something to having like really big visions, and you can be an entrepreneur with, you know, modest sized visions, but those huge visions tend to be the ones that change the world. And to your very point about the adversity, you're definitely going to have it down that path. Disbelief, you're crazy, all of that, right?
Well, you're gonna get it from sometimes people that are very jealous. Sometimes people that are trying to manipulate you. Sometimes from people, I think, quite frankly, that are not very bright. You know, so at the end, you really, like, we had an instance, and I don't want to get too political in terms of bashing old colleagues or whatever, because but we have to be real here. We have to be real that you know, at a certain point, we went and we made this movie, Meet Mario, and this is 6 years ago, and Julie and I really took this story apart and we put it together, and we told the world we were going to make a feature film in film school for like 10 grand, and everybody laughed at us, everybody. And I mean, teachers, whoever, seasoned producers, you can't do that. And I said, you know, we'd go out to eat and I'd say, Julie, here's how I think we could do it. And she'd say, well, maybe we could try this and maybe we could try that. And again, we're taking apart the script, we're putting everything together, and we're really trying to reassess how to do this. And we believed in it, and we got a crew of great people to back it, and we pulled it off. You know, is it a flawed project? Sure. Are there issues in the movie? Sure. But if we hadn't made that movie, our entire company would not have worked, because then we took that project as a proof of concept, and we said to people, look what we did with 10 grand. People said, wow, that's impossible. We said, you know, we did it. You know, we did it the right way. And imagine what we could do possibly with 30 grand. But if we hadn't taken that leap of faith together, and we hadn't fought against people, and when I'm telling you, we had to, you know, we had teachers telling us, this is a horrible idea, you're not allowed to do it. And Julie and I are like, we're not asking for permission. See, and that's that other part of being an entrepreneur, you know, you, especially you have a good partner, you're not asking the universe for permission. You're going out and saying, I think this is going to do well. I think it's going to benefit people. And I really think I can make a couple bucks, you know, and if you love it, you fight for it, you know?
And I think you touched on a very signature characteristic of entrepreneurs. I mean, entrepreneurial at heart, like the whole asking for permission, please, like it just doesn't work. It makes me think back to my husband would always tell me that I have a problem like with authority. I've kind of always been, you know, it's another one of the reasons I really had to leave corporate America, but I've kind of always been one of those people that needed to just do it. You see it, you know, there's something, whether the other person believes or not, you see there's a vision, you gotta go after it. You can't have any of those blocks, right? Because you kind of ignore that stuff. The teachers for you, they're like, yeah, right, 10,000 feature film? Yeah, no way. But you guys stayed on that, no, we know we can do it, get out of the way. Here we go.
Yep.
So now, talk to me a little bit about, I want to think about those creative entrepreneurs that are listening right now. And especially those who may be either wanting to push into filmmaking, or maybe they're in it already, but they're kind of like, okay, I got the big vision. How do I move forward? Like, how do I get the financing? How do I get people to start paying attention? How do I get whatever I need? What would be your advice there?
So in terms of filmmaking, we're at a really, really exciting turning point in the industry that has confused a lot of people, meaning, this is an iPhone 11 and it shoots 4K, which is a superior film quality that wasn't available 10 years ago. So there's a movie called Tangerine that won Sundance years ago. They used an iPhone 5. You had these kids who now are filmmakers. So TikTok, Instagram stories, you're setting up a frame, you're setting up lighting, you're telling an actor or your friend where to stand. So yet you have, this is why I love Rodney's also, the name of his talk show. There's a no excuse attitude. You can go out on your cell phone right now, film something provocative, post it on YouTube, get 1 million views, create a poster, and go to any company you want. Go to Under Armour, go to Nike, go to tag Sylvester Stallone, tag whoever it is, and say, look, I got 1 million views. I already have what an advertiser would have to do for me years ago, or I got X amount of followers. Here's my idea, and here's the proof of concept. And I mean, I'm a risk taker, and that's part of my nature. I do my very best to do right by people. I do my very best to reflect. But, I went through certain things in my life, and I'm a fighter. Not to sound like a narcissist here, because like I said, I owe everything to my partner. If it wasn't for her, there would not be one movie made. There's too much to it. And she's one of the most loyal people I know, and truly one of my best friends, and that's a beautiful thing when you have the same passions. But you have to have the tenacity and the courage to say, this idea might not work. Like, I wrote a children's book. It's a dual language book. I had a release at Barnes and Nobles. It was the first book I ever wrote. I did everything I could. I had it on Amazon, and I didn't get rich off of it, but my grandmother loved it. I'm proud of it. It's flawed, and I enjoy, that's why I wanted to wear this shirt. I enjoy learning. I enjoy the process. And I've realized that if you're not going to fail hard, it's impossible to succeed. You got to get out there and say, you know what, this thing might tank, but I got a backup plan. So like what I was saying to you before we got on here, with no shortcuts, I had a lot of problems with school. I had a lot of problems with teachers. I was in trouble in high school a lot. I mouthed off to a lot of teachers, et cetera, et cetera. Ironically, I'm a college professor as well. And part of that was my uncle pushing me saying, hey, look. But it's like, yeah, right. Part of that was my uncle saying something, poignant, which was, there's no shortcuts, but you always have to have something in your back pocket. He says, so if you have a degree in Italian in your back pocket and you have a degree in Spanish in your back pocket, he says, even if, like right now, you can't work with actors with COVID because of the rules. How do you have two people next to each other? But I was still teaching, doing online courses, still writing, teaching an Italian course, teaching a Spanish course, teaching an Italian film course, teaching a Spanish film course. So you also have to have a series of backup plans. Like I said, these people that are in the restaurant business right now, unless you're reinventing the wheel and saying, okay, I got to get on Seamless. I have to think about how I'm going to deliver food. Maybe I could structure a deal with construction sites or whatever. How are you surviving? Especially in New York City. So there's got to be also a lot of contingency plans. So like when I make a feature film, like I just pitched an investor recently who asked me to get involved with his life story. And I said, hey, look, I could do the story for $100,000. I could do the story for 500,000, or I could do the story for 3 million. I said, they're going to be different movies, but I'm willing to get my hands dirty. And I think so many of us are really afraid of our image due to social media that we're going to look like a jackass. So people are going to laugh at us. Well, it's impossible to be an entrepreneur because I've failed more times than I've succeeded. And I've looked like a jerk plenty of times. So you have to have that confidence to say, well, it might happen. I can laugh at myself. I'm going to learn, and I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah, I don't know if I coined the phrase or not, but I like to think about failure in this particular phrase. Failure is freeing to me. Just the fact of going into anything and accepting the fact that I can fail. Okay, it is what it is. You don't need to put up a face. You don't need to put on a front that if I touched it, it's gold. Like it's freeing, right? This just freedom to just go, fail, learn, move forward type of thing. I love, there are so many things that you just said, DJ. And I know you talked about these, I'm going online, I'm teaching courses, a Spanish course, Spanish filmmaking course, or this or that. And you talked about them as contingencies. I really even see them as just multiple streams of income.
Exactly.
Just multiple things. You might turn this off today. You might turn it on tomorrow. You might leave it on.
Well, I love teaching. That's the other part. Like Spike Lee's, he's at NYU, and Martin Scorsese has gotten involved. So I've never looked at teaching as a backup plan per se, because I enjoy being with the students. And I think, to your point, I have to be true to myself. So even a kid maybe who doesn't see eye to eye with me, or a kid who's mouthed off to me, or whatever it is, or a kid who's rolled his eyes, I'm not annoyed by that. I'm like, look, well, challenge me. If you can do it better than me, great, and I'll learn. Really, my ego as a teacher is removed because I was such a tough student. I didn't really listen to anyone. To your point, I had serious problems with authority. I would get in arguments with my professors. I went to a Catholic school where there's a lot of rules. I was in detention constantly. But I like this failure is freeing. I wrote it down because this is something I tell my students a lot. I said, because they ask the same, I teach a filmmaking course. So they're saying, well, what do you do if it doesn't work? And I said, well, actually, when I met you, I was like fat. I was like really fat. I ate a bunch of for a year, and like I put on 20 pounds, and actually my suit didn't even really fit. And then during COVID, I lost 20 pounds. I went out and I ran. But
I don't even remember.
I'm not self-conscious about it, but I did put on 20 pounds. It happened. My suit was not fitting right, and I was kind of like uncomfortable, whatever. But, I use that as an example because if somebody said to me, hey, you got fat, I would say, yeah, I did. I put on 20. Or maybe they say, you got fat. Would you put on 15? I go, I actually put on 20. I'm not running from the truth. I know it. I've accepted it. Even if you come at me with whatever type of slight you think it is, you can't get in my psyche because I've already admitted my flaws and I'm working on it. And that's a huge part of staying in the zone. Like, how are you going to make this $10,000 movie? It's never been done. I realize it's risky. And here's what we do. Well, you need to get the proper insurance and this, that, and the other. I realize it. We don't have it yet. Yeah, you're right. Everything you're saying that you're taking as a shot, I've already studied my opponent's mind. Because to your point, failure is freedom. But also, the biggest thing this year, I'm 34 years old, that I have focused on with everything that's happening in the world is you can't lie to yourself. You got to be honest with yourself. Did I look for a shortcut? Did I do the wrong thing purposely? Did was I devious in nature, whatever it is? Only those people, especially as a teacher, you know, I had 200 students. Not every student is going to appreciate what you're doing. Thank God I've had a great run and I've had a great rapport with my students. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in your head, you know, I went in and I tried to break down a movie, and maybe I did this right, maybe I didn't, this didn't go as well, and that's okay. Tomorrow I'll reassess, I'll reflect, and I'll come at it even harder. And you got to be intense. I mean, I drink like 9 cups of coffee a day, you know. But,
Jeez.
yeah,
Surprised you're not bouncing off the wall.
wow.
You're managing to stay still during this interview.
I'm trying to focus. So, yeah.
But you know what? I love that, DJ. There is, I think all those things do string together, right? The failure is freeing. Don't run from the truth. You can't lie to yourself. Like there have, even in the past couple of weeks, and I don't think this has anything to do with COVID. I think this is just in general. I have been going through in my mind, like, okay, to your point, like, what are some of the things that I've done? Maybe I didn't give as much value as I should have given in that thing I offered. Or, you know, what am I really doing? Do I really want to be offering this thing, or am I just doing it for XYZ reason? There is something to that. And I think too, once we can look at ourselves in the mirror, maybe we can grow our impact.
100%.
Right.
And, you know, and the tough part about the beauty of making movies and what I love about making movies, and they're so hard, you know, people don't, I have a movie also, if you type in Santino, DJ Higgins, it's a movie all in Italian. We got a grant from the Russo brothers, the guys that do Marvel. You know, it was a very competitive process. And then Julie doesn't speak Italian, and she actually saved the project because she said, well, if you speak Italian, which I do, and the other people don't, and we have to follow a script, how will anybody know what the hell's going on? She goes, we got to find what's called a scriptie who's bilingual. And I said, holy smokes, you know, if she didn't think about that, the entire project wouldn't have worked. 'Cause I'm talking to the camera guy. He's, you know, all right, takes done. How was it? And you look at him, he's like, I didn't understand a word. With that being said, you know, when you're getting involved in these projects, especially in film, what I love is no matter how hard it was, no matter what happened financially, because films are primarily structured on a back end and front end deal, meaning you asked me to collaborate with you and make a movie. And I said, well, my fee as the director and the writer is going to be $100,000. But then if and when we put it on Amazon and we make 10 million, I want X% on the back end. So it's a very interesting process. Every film's a little business. Now, what's so different about the arts, and I was talking to your husband about this briefly. I mean, I was kind of sporadic. I was a little bit nervous. So I was, you know, kind of, because I didn't, you know.
It was all the coffee, maybe.
Yeah, right. Well, then we had a little wine. So I was up, we had a little wine, and but the beauty is these projects make you immortal, you know. And again, not to sound like this egomaniac, but you know, you have this message that you want to share, you believe in it, you're fighting for it, and long after I die, my movie's still gonna live. Like that to me is a form of payment, because you ask, why do you make movies? And that's such a great and complicated question. It's not the desire to get rich, because anytime I raise a bunch of dough, I throw it into the movie because I'm neurotic, you know, and I want the movie to be perfect. And I want to get the actor that I can financially afford. And then I want the editing and, you know, and all of this. And you know, and you're just, as an artist and as a filmmaker, you're right. But the thought that thing lives past you, or the thought that I'm talking to you right now and potentially somebody's watching Pasquales Magic Veal, you know, which is a story about contemporary relationships. Okay. You know, I always have these social commentaries, and I try to have a component that Julie and I believe will benefit the world, you know, and we're very big on that. You know, we're very big on challenging people, their social consciousness, but also their intellects, and pushing for growth. You know, that's something I think during these times is so important that we're forgetting. You know, a lot of people are making mistakes. A lot of people are coming together, but are we pushing people to grow? And are people growing? And are there discussions? And, you know, that's the beauty of music. That's the beauty of you know, film, that these things especially now with the internet, they're there forever. I mean,
Forever.
that's worth, you can't put a price on that. You know, that's absolutely priceless. So
Yeah, Derek always says, he's always like, you know, our kids and our kids' kids, he's like, at least when it comes to me, like they will know about me through my music.
yeah,
and
that's
video
huge. Right.
and movies forever because they live forever,
Right.
it is so, so cool. I'm telling you, time flies. So this is, I love, 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 love talking to you about this, DJ.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? Exactly. So before we jump off here though, tell people where they can learn more. I know you talked about me, Mario, you talked about Pasquales. By the way, if anybody else was like, I'm trying to write down what DJ just said, and he said it, I'm going to make sure that it is linked on the show notes at CandacePierce.com.
Oh, thank you so much.
But tell folks more about where they can find you though.
So we have Pasquales Magic Veal is on YouTube. If you type in Pasquales Magic Veal and DJ Higgins, there's 4 guys from The Sopranos on there. Meet Mario is on YouTube as well. There's a website called smacktv.net, which is dealing with a series that we've launched. I have a website, djhiggins.net. And then I can give you my email and you can put that as well if people wanted to get in touch or ask personal questions. You know, I'm all about, like I said, growth. So if I could help somebody, I've had a lot of good mentors. You know, I hope in saying you have to be aware of the naysayers. I didn't come across as a pessimist, but you can't be an entrepreneur and expect everybody to support you. And you can't be a complainer. You got to be a fighter. You know, you got to say, well, look, I'm going to do it anyways. You may not like it, or you may not believe in it, or you may think I'm not socially, intellectually, and that, but at the end of the day, I'm not asking you.
Right.
I'm going out and I'm fighting for this because I truly believe in this. And then, you know, the great thing, I know we got to go, but when you're watching the movie, especially, and it could be the same thing as a restaurant or a book, but when you're watching the movie that, you know, Pasquales in Vegas, I made it 3 years earlier, and I'm seeing people laugh still. And I'm like, you would like to think that's a form of generosity, that you're causing people to reflect, you're invoking emotion, but this damn thing was made 3 years ago. And those are the things that are exciting. And even when I show my students a film, I'm able to now have it as a teachable moment. Look, this didn't work. And if you pay attention here, this was a mistake. So as a teacher, I'm always saying, you know where my pride is and where my ego is? You guys better go out and make better movies than me. Because if I watch it, I'm thinking you had me as a teacher and I told you what my mistakes were. So I'm trying to get the kids to say, look, let's look at this teacher and say, these are the mistakes he made, so you don't have to make them, you know? And yeah, but like I said, I can give you my email, and if people wanted to reach out and if they had any questions, I would love to collaborate. I'm actually going to snap a picture of us on this so I could,
yes. Cheese.
So I can plug on my page. Also, DJ the Director is my Instagram handle. People, if they have questions, they could DM me here. But yeah, if you're ever back in the New York area, your husband, yourself will go out to eat and really catch up. Hopefully they find the vaccine. But I really was excited for today. And I respect you a great deal, and your husband as well. So this was cool.
Thank you. Well, I've got to tell you, like, keep doing what you're doing, because I respect the heck out of your filmmaking game and just what you're doing. The movies that you are making that are impactful, that are worth watching, right? They aren't just entertainment. They make you think, they make you ask questions. So thank you for that. And thank you just for taking the time to be on the show. I do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Stay safe. Tell Derek I said hello, and hopefully see you in person soon.
Will do. Now, everybody listening or watching, you just heard an amazing conversation. So, like I always say, don't just take this and hold on to it. There is likely something in here that you could take action on. So go do it. Have a great day. Have a great evening whenever you're listening or watching. And we'll talk to you again very, very soon.